the Field of 68 Best Bets show presented by BetRivers. Yes, the three men of the weave are no longer together in the same hotel room. Matthew is still in Vegas. He's in the Bellagio right now.
He's never leaving. He's never leaving.
One of Terry Benedict's casinos. Very
That's
nice, Matthew. I am back in Chicago. I flew in this morning. Jim, what a great host. He's still at home in his lovely Vegas abode. Fellas, I had fun. I cleaned up. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to talk Sweet 16 games. Jim, takeaways from the second round, the weekend that we had.
Yeah, Kai, no more stash for you. It was
Yes.
jarring to see you hop on the stream here. It was not the way I left you. So that is tough to see. Takeaway, this is kind of a full weekend one. Guys, we didn't have a buzzer beater. Not a single one. None. That's kind of a disappointment for the NCAA tournament first, 40 games that we got or whatever. Not a single one. There were some great big shots, though, especially last night. We had several of them from TCU and Arizona, most notably Mr. Matherin, Benny Matherin, tying the game up late, send it to OT to rescue the Wildcats. A little bit of a warning sign for them going against Houston, but we'll cover that matchup later on in the show. Matthew, what's your takeaway?
Man, the one seeds were up against it. Only a few were able to survive. North Carolina takes down Baylor, who many thought was a vulnerable one seed. Tar Heels are moving on. Gonzaga needed everything in the second half. The Drew Timme outburst to pull past Memphis, Arizona. My goodness, we can litigate that game for 20 minutes. Should they have won? Should they not have won? Or was that the worst officiated game we've ever seen? All viable topics of conversation there. And Kansas with Creighton Kai down 2 players. So I don't know if that's a takeaway for are the remaining one seeds vulnerable, or did they just have very unfortunate draws, I guess?
It's the NCAA tournament, baby. No, Kansas is not an unfortunate draw. They just Creighton just is a weird team. I didn't really understand how they hung. I did think they would cover, but that was just on a whim of them being a weird team. And the NCAA tournament's been super weird. We'll talk about St. Peter's later on in the show for our Friday section, but let's get started on Thursday. Chronological order, as we like to do for these games, starting with Arkansas against Gonzaga. Guys, are Arkansas fans doing the annoying narrative of touting another Sweet 16, Matt? Because I don't know if I can handle it. They're 0-2 against the spread, against a 13 seed and a 12 seed. Congrats, Hogs. Way to go. Yada, yada, yada. What do you think about this game, Matt? Drew Timme went Super Saiyan against Memphis. Can he do it again against Arkansas?
I kind of think he could, but I think he's going to pick his spots. It's, like he did against Memphis, right? I think the first half he was a little more timid. And then when he turned it on late, he was obviously timid. Good, Jim. I sort of backed on that one. I don't know, Kai. I think that this is, you look at this number, it's up to 9 right now, open to 8.5. So a little bit of money coming in on Gonzags. I kind of think that it's a good matchup for the Zigzags, but I worry about Jalen Williams up front. Jim, very good post defender. I think Arkansas, while their offense has been troubling, I thought they've defended pretty well so far. That Vermont offense is no joke. And then New Mexico State's a tough team to prepare for with a guy like Teddy Allen as well. So Kai, I wonder if we disrespecting Arkansas's defense, even though I know they may be saying we're disrespecting them. Are we privy to this defense? It's been pretty good.
Matt, I'm gonna poke a little bit of hole on you here. You've been flaunting Mr. Jalen Williams as a great post defender. He's in the 35th percentile nationally. I'm not sure he's great. I think based on the mode we saw Timme unlock late in that Memphis game against potentially even better post defenders, I think he's going to have his way against Jalen Williams. We saw him have his way against Evan Mobley last year. I mean, I don't know who else you can score against and continue proving that you're excellent. Holmgren isn't really an interior post-up kind of guy, but they do play 2 bigs at once, and that's not really Arkansas style. I mean, you're probably throwing Adish Toney at one of these 2, and that's a bit of an issue. My concern for Gonzaga is their guard defense. I think over and over it's been a problem. It was a big issue in their regular season losses to Alabama and to Duke. Now you take on an Arkansas team with Note, potentially even Chris Like, some of the more power guards that they have. Devo Davis has come on late offensively. Umude is a tough cover for this Gonzaga team. So I think Arkansas can do some things that bug Gonzaga. The number feels just a hair high to me. I'm thinking this is a little like last year where I still think Gonzaga is the national title winner, Kai. They've been spooked a little bit, but Arkansas can hang around with them, give them a scare, just like they did to Baylor last year en route to the Bears national title. So that's where I'm looking with this one. I think I think Arkansas hangs around.
Yeah, the Razorbacks offense, I wouldn't say it's super intimidating outside of Notai, who is very intimidating to me. That guy rocks. I'm totally on board. But the basket attack doesn't seem like it's going to work against Gonzaga. You talk about Arkansas's defense. Gonzaga's interior defense is awesome. They lead the country in 2-point field goal percentage defense. They rarely foul. I think those are two very important things going against Arkansas. And I think they will have success in the post with Timmy and Holmgren, two matchup issues for them. Matt, most important thing for me, they don't turn the ball over. 7 turnovers against Georgia State, 7 turnovers against Memphis. That's incredible. Those two teams force turnovers. Arkansas is not going to be able to do that against Gonzaga. I think there's a huge edge here. Now, 9 points we've seen in this tournament. That's a lot, even though it is Gonzaga versus Arkansas. So I'm probably leaning towards the Hogs in the number ever so slightly. Next.
Yeah, I mean, hey, Kai, real quick, do we notice that JT Notte is just he's continued his cold funk? I think his shooting percentage has completely eroded the last few weeks of the season. So it's a little concerning from Arkansas.
He takes tough shots, man. I mean, a lot of the times, middle of the year, they were going in his sky ball 3-pointers that he takes from 28 feet. But
knuckleballs, yeah.
I just don't know that there's a great guard defender on this Gonzaga team that's going to lock him up. That's my concern.
Now, next game.
Should we total? Kai? Should we hit it?
Yes,
There's only
go
8
ahead.
games. There's only 8 games. 155 points feels high, but should be a track meet, right?
I'm with Jim. Yeah, I kind of felt high to me. Like I know the New Mexico State game is a little bit of an anomaly. It played to 70 possessions, fairly fast, even though it was 53 to 48. Just super ugly game. Note had 8 steals in that game. I think was the final box score tally. 8 steals is wild. It does feel like it'll be efficiency wise low, Jim, but I don't know if Arkansas is the most disciplined in transition. I haven't looked at the specific splits on that yet, but I think Gonzaga can maybe attack more in transition, which is where they've struggled at times so far, at least recently.
Efficiency low. I disagree. Gonzaga has 1.2 points per possession against Memphis and Georgia State. I think they're going to score easily. It's not going to be a problem. I lean towards the over. Yeah. All right. Michigan, Villanova. Guys, here, in my opinion, the spread feels a tad short. About 5 points, but I don't want to fade an underdog Michigan team in the tournament. They just cover. They just win games here. Credit Juwan Howard. Yeah, we're going to credit him. We're not going to show that picture of him hugging Kennedy Chandler, Jim, because it's not relevant to the slap of the assistant. Is there a Dickinson edge in this game? I would say yes, but Dixon should get some credit. He's stronger than he appears. He's a pretty good defender. What do you think?
Yeah, this line dipped to 4.5 at 1 or 2 places, Kai. I kind of hope it goes down because I think I'm willing to back Villanova at a number like 4. It's kind of the push and pull, the tug of war with Dickinson, where Villanova's playing 5 guys that can sit on the perimeter. I mean, Eric Dixon hit 2 huge threes against Ohio State. If Dickinson has to come out and guard him out there, both in ball screens and just spacing the floor, that's a massive edge for Nova. I think that gives them driving lanes to get into, no rim presence. Diabate has struggled a little more lately. They've had to play Terrence Williams heavy, so I don't think they'd have much rim protection there. But man, on the other end, Matt, I know Villanova's stout defensively, but Dickinson can kind of do what he did against Colorado State. Like, these guys are smaller than him. He's going to catch the ball in that left block, flip it up with his left hand. We know he doesn't really have much of a left shoulder, like turning with his right hand, but he doesn't need one against teams that don't have true size to make him go that way. I watched some of the Villanova post possessions just from the season. They don't hard double so much as they dig, and they try to get you to pick it up and have to kick it out. I just don't know how much that's going to bother Dickinson, who's seen stuff like that all season. It feels like a high efficiency game, but I trust Villanova just a little more.
Yeah, no take on the side. I think Kai brought up the point about Michigan seeming like they're on a roll. Michigan, UNC, you both have to treat them like the teams we thought they were back in November, because they've played like that recently and maybe even better in some spots. But Nova's trending right back to where we thought they would be too. The matchup is, I think you're right, Jim, favorable for high efficiency, a highly efficient game. I do lean the over, even though Nova likes to crawl and they dictate the tempo so well. I give a pretty seismic edge to Villanova's guards on the offensive end, Kai, even with the infusion of my guy, Frankie Collins, a very stout defender. I think Gillespie and Moore can score in their crafty sort of isolation type plays with those, those pinch post type situations. However, I think Jim brings a good point about Dickinson. I think he can score pretty easily, not easily, fairly easily over Dickinson inside. Question is, are they going to utilize him properly? It seems like sometimes Dickinson gets kind of lost in no man's land on the perimeter. Yeah. Colorado State, it took them a while to figure that out. Like, oh my God, we have an obvious edge inside. And to be honest, Caleb Houston's shooting was really the catalyst, not even like Dickinson on repeat. So I hope if you're Juwan Howard, you prioritize that. Phil Martelli, you prioritize that. I think that's a clear edge where you have to go to, right? Don't overcomplicate this. You have the edge inside, go there.
Yeah, he likes to float. I think he's trying to prove he can shoot threes. It's not a good. Don't do that. I think size.
Prove us later.
I think size, switchability of Nova, their wings, their guards. I think that's going to be an issue for your Brooks, your Collins, your Jones. A little bit smaller perimeter for Michigan. And Michigan's defense, I'm not too convinced on. They're not quite Ohio State poor level, but they're not too far in front. And Nova sliced up Ohio State 1.2 points per possession. I can see them scoring pretty easily against Michigan's defense as well. I lean towards Nova at -5, but again, scared of that Michigan dog in the tournament.
I love the small guards angle though, just for Villanova guard post ups. I love when they go with that with Gillespie and Moore. I think they can beat up on Michigan's guards inside.
I'm with you. Next game, Matthew. This game is the matchup we wanted, the matchup that was expected in this region. Texas Tech versus your Dukies. Texas Tech favored. In my opinion, that's correct. The correct team is favored in this game. For me, it's all about defense. Texas Tech took over the number one spot in KenPom defensively. They're so intimidating. I just don't think Duke can go out and simply out-talent Texas Tech. They're going to have to do more than that. Can Coach K draw up a good offensive scheme?
No, it's going to be the same scheme where he has guys like Paolo Banchero and AJ Griffin kind of at the top of the key, and they're trying to drive into gaps of what the best gap defending defense in all of college basketball. So I've seen this movie before. I am not excited to watch this game from a Duke fan perspective. I think you're going to get really frustrated watching Duke kind of bang their heads against the wall trying to get into seams, and they just aren't there against Texas Tech. And then when Tech dials up that pressure to layer on top, they're already like basically impenetrable shell that they form around the lane. Jim, I guess the key for Duke is, and we've seen them do this against Virginia. I mean, other pack line defenses, they see a few in the ACC. I mean, Notre Dame kind of runs one as well. They can just shoot over it. However, their shot makers have not been as prolific as we saw earlier this season. AJ Griffin doesn't like instill that fear in me like he did for that short span. However,
he might be hurt.
Right? So we saw Keels get those big minutes late, and Keels has been kind of bad the last few weeks. You know, he had some good moments late there. The key here, Jim, for me is Roach. I mean, just an absolute revelation for Duke, basically, lifting the Devils out of their offensive sludge there. But against Texas Tech's length, man, I don't think he's going to have his way either. I think the under's a great bet here. Even as much as I hate betting Duke unders, it's been bet down to 137. I think both defenses assert their will against the opposing offense.
Yeah, Duke's defense is pretty bad right now, to be quite honest. But Texas Tech offense might be a good salve for that. Could heal that.
Yeah.
The issues. Matt, I brought up this stat before on this show, but Jared Burson keeps tweeting it, and it keeps getting better and better. Texas Tech's played 24 unique opponents this year. 17 of them have had their season low in paint points. Like, you just cannot score inside. Montana State only had 16. Notre Dame only had 10. You have to score over the top. And while Duke has some shooters, as you mentioned, I don't think that's where they're comfortable. They shot 65% inside the arc against Notre Dame. I don't think they're going to get anywhere near that number, both in terms of quantity and quality looks. Against Texas Tech, I think that frustrates a young team. So I am leaning Texas Tech as well here. The Red Raiders, Kai, I think their defense just frustrates Duke a little too much.
I'm going with the far superior defensive team, the better coached team in Texas Tech here. A little bit worried about Texas Tech offense, right? Montana State, no trouble. But we saw them have issues against Notre Dame, a team that's not great defensively, just 0.94 points per possession against the Irish, 27% from three. That's not the first time that's happened this season. They can go through lulls. Duke's defense isn't great. They're not super disciplined, but they are bigger. They're more athletic. So it is concern. I do like the underlean, Matthew, that you had, but I'm going Texas Tech on the spread here. -1, basically a pick.
Yeah, I think with Mark Williams, you can make Tech shoot jumpers. Maybe, I think just his presence up there instills some hesitancy for the drivers, and you make Tech into a jump shooting team, then their offense can look a little bit stagnant for sure. So
foul trouble could be big. They're going to try to get him in foul trouble. So keep an eye on that.
Next game, one I am looking very much forward to. And Matthew, I know one that you have very much interest in as well. teaser. We do best bets on this show called Best Bets.
We do.
Houston versus Arizona. Guys, stat. The last KenPom top 10 team Houston has played was Kentucky in the 2019 NCAA tournament, i.e., this is the best team they have played in 3 or 4 or 5 years. Jim, Arizona -2, not surprised. Jim, your hand is up.
Houston played Baylor in the semifinals last year.
Did they?
Yes, Final Four. They lost.
God damn it! All right,
I just want to make sure before we.
I thought my stat was so cool. It's not. All right,
they didn't play very well in that game.
Second best team.
Yeah,
second best team. I was in Vegas for a week. Let's start over. Arizona -2 is not too surprising here. I think the perception and possibly the reality was they should be a lot higher favorite. But again, KenPom has this Houston -1, kind of what we saw with Illinois. Jim, I backed Illinois in that game, perhaps foolishly. I'm kind of in on Houston now, but I want to know your opinion first.
Yeah, I think the way that both those two games went, the Houston game and then the Arizona game, would certainly lead a lot of people down the path of, man, you got to bet Houston here, particularly from the matchup edge of watching TCU get 20 offensive rebounds. And then Houston, maybe not the best offensive rebounding team in the country by rate, but just reputationally, they go at the glass. Every time they miss jumpers, it's basically just to play volleyball up there and try to get a second chance. That said, man, I kind of feel like I'm leaning towards zigging back the other way. It seems like there's going to be such a wave of support for Houston because of blowing out Illinois and Arizona looking sketchy. But Matt, we get basically 4 full days for Kirk Kriisa to get healthier. He looked like Garbaggio. If he's the one out there guarding Jamal Shed in pick and roll, then I think Arizona's in a lot of trouble. Unless A, he's healthier, or B, they throw Dalen Terry on him and try to have him be the guy that chases him around those screens. So I'm concerned about the offensive glass. I think that's a real issue for Arizona. They don't box out that well. They like to get out in transition, and they're starting to push instead. But I'm still leaning towards the Wildcats. I can't help it, Matthew.
Yeah, it's my best bet. And I'm not going to underscore with any sort of ring endorsement just because I do respect Houston so much. However, I do think that Houston game was largely a byproduct of Illinois, a team that was maybe more dysfunctional than we give credit to. And I thought they had a really good game plan against a very distinct style of offense that relied very heavily on Kofi. Once they were able to take him away, I thought the supporting cast for Illinois really shrunk. And I don't think that's the case with Arizona. While they did struggle with TCU, who's basically a cousin of sorts from a DNA perspective, the top 2 offensive rebounding teams in the country. Yeah, they struggled, but I think they also proved that they can withstand the punch. And they took a few heavy haymakers from Eddie Lampkin and the men of the Horned Frogs. If anything, this narrative sounds dumb, but I kind of buy into it in this spot. Like, I think that was a good, like, that hardened Arizona a bit to me. And I hope that Tommy Lloyd learned, Jim, as you were yelling so emphatically on the couch, that he needs to be open in playing those twin towers together. I thought when he tried to go small, that was a mistake. And against Houston, you can get away with it more, but you have to absolutely sew up the offensive boards, because I think you make Houston the jump shooters. They're a lot more mortal, but then if you let them supplement on the offensive glass, then yeah, it's like the holy crap, this Houston team's awesome version. So Arizona best bet -2. Don't love it for a few reasons, but I just think it's too low. You got to buy it on Zona now.
Yeah. Right. So if you don't think Kelvin Sampson, people out there, is a top 5 coach in the country, I don't know what basketball you watch. What he has done this year is worthy of Coach of the Year honors. Being number 2 in KenPom, losing 2 of your best players, and rolling a team like Illinois is so impressive. I do think Kriisa will be more healthy, Jim. He was terrible. I can't believe he played down the stretch.
So bad. Both ends of the floor, he was terrible.
Yeah, but you guys mentioned a couple times, TCU crushed them on the boards, and it was naked, no box outs. I mean, it was undisciplined stuff from Arizona. They will get smoked by Houston if they do that again. And Houston's so disciplined in the post. They destroy paint touches. I know Koloko had a great game against TCU, but I don't think you're getting that from Houston. Look at Coburn. He got harassed every time he caught the ball. They're going to force Arizona to be jump shooters. That worked out pretty well for TCU. The guards like to shoot tough shots. They love it. They can make them, but I don't know if that's sustainable for a game against Houston here. I'm going with Houston. Again, it's a bet on defense like Texas Tech. And for me, it's a bet on the better coach. And that's no shade at Tommy Lloyd. I think Kelvin Sampson is just that good. So I will take Houston to win this game.
Yeah, Kai, the more I do the matchup stuff, I just like, if I was writing this, I would be writing myself into a corner just because I think Houston has some real edges.
Yeah, they do. It's a gut best bet for me. So if you don't trust my gut, then stay away, I guess.
Good ring endorsement. That is Thursday. Before we go to Friday, I got a little ad break for you, courtesy of my buddy Jim. and Honey.
That's right, Kai. Today's episode of Best Bets is sponsored by Honey, which is the easiest way to save money when shopping on your phone or your computer. Kai, have you ever been in the spot? You're shopping for something online, you get to check out and ask you for a promo code. So you start Googling around, you're trying to find, I gotta save some money here. I need to find a discount. Well, thanks to Honey, manually searching is a thing of the past. Honey does that for you. It scours the internet and finds the one that best fits your cart. You're shopping, you check out, a Honey button pops up, you click apply coupons. Within a few seconds, you just watch the price go down, you sit back. Kai, after this weekend, we bought about a vat of Pedialyte to nurse ourselves back to health. Had we had Honey, my goodness, we probably would have saved 50% on it, but we have it now. That's the important part. If you don't already have Honey, you could be missing out like we were. By getting it, you'll be doing yourself a solid and supporting the show. 2-in-1. We love that. I never recommend something I wouldn't use. I love saving money. Big on that, especially after a big, expensive Vegas weekend. So get Honey for free at joinhoney.com/March Madness. That's joinhoney.com/March Madness. I think we can remember that one. Hop in there and get yourself some Honey. Kai, let's go back to Friday.
Thank you, Jim. A wonderful ad read from you. Now we started with the Friday games. And guys, we're going to start with the darling of the tournament, St. Peter's versus Purdue. What a story here. I need to credit the guy here, but the Twitter thread going out from a former St. Peter's staffer is incredible. Just giving a peek inside their program, their facilities, just incredible. To be in the Sweet 16 from where that program came from is a fantastic story. Shaheen Holloway, congratulations. You're the next coach of Seton Hall. Totally deserved. One of the top effort teams, Matt, in the tournament. And we've seen these teams do incredibly well. Now, I said all that, and I said Murray State would blow them out. Surely Purdue blows them out. Surely St. Peter's can't keep this up. They do have a top 30 defense now in the country. Impressive in those first two games, but Purdue's offense, better than both Kentucky and Murray State. It seems impossible to me they're going to stop Edie Williams, and especially Jaden Ivey on the perimeter. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the St. Peter's thing ends here. I mean, the spread's big, and I think you have to respect how well Peters is playing. They've clearly proven they can stand up against all the way bona fide size, which is what Purdue boasts. The way they were able to neutralize Big O, Jim, up front, Oscar the Grouch for Kentucky.
Wait, we're saying they neutralized him?
I mean, they beat them.
He had 30 and 16. I'm not.
Yeah, well, so point. That's my next point is like, I think there's an avenue where she always like, hey, we'll let Edie get his, 30, whatever, and we're just going to we'll stay at home with shooters, and we're going to manufacture and chip away on the offensive glass. So I think there's a blueprint at least here for some success. However, I just don't think it's replicable. I think there is an expiration date on that type of approach. And Travion Williams, while frustrating at times this tournament, was pretty damn stellar. And that's a tough 1-2 punch to withstand. I think St. Peter's has basically one really good, maybe two good post defenders, if you want to count both Drame twins and Indefo. But again, they're more long, like hybrid forward wingy guys. They're not true like bruisers. And Purdue, I think, can also soften up that defense a little more than UK can with their shooters. Guys got to make shots, though. I don't know, Jim. Story for me here is, can Purdue's defense suffocate St. Peter's? Probably not, but I mean, can they suffocate them enough to escape a 12-point, to get outside a 12-point number?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really trust Purdue's defense. I heaped some praise on them yesterday because they held Texas scoreless for 10 minutes. They still gave up 71 points. Like, if you took out a quarter of the game and you're still giving up 71 points to Texas's offense, you have some problems defensively. You just do. But I think the one big takeaway from that game too for Purdue, especially offensively, is how often they were at the free throw line. I know this got complained about ad nauseum because Texas was living in foul trouble, but they have small bigs and they were trying to compete with Travion Williams and Zach Edey inside, and they just kept hacking them. And the refs said, I have to keep calling this. So they put him on the line a ton. Eric Hunter and Jaden Ivey both got to the line a bunch. I think that's going to happen again against St. Mary's. I think they're too small, against St. Peter's. They're too small inside. They're going to be forced to resort to fouling quite a bit. They are pretty deep, Kai. They've got a bunch of bodies to throw, but they're all smaller bodies. Again, that's the issue. Yep. So I think Purdue shoots a ton of free throws. They can get off enough threes, and they're effective at shooting them. They'll be better than Kentucky was at 4 for 17 in the first round. Purdue will knock down more threes than that. So yeah, I'm leaning towards Purdue despite the crazy wave of high level play that St. Peter's is on.
You got to remember not to I would say put too much stock in single game tournament settings. The sample size is so small. St. Peter's literally had the offensive game of their lives against Kentucky. They had one of their better offensive games again against Murray State. This team lost to Stony Brook, Canisius, Rider, Siena twice, St. Francis, New York, blown out by St. John's this year. They are not on the same level as Purdue, despite these two miracle wins. Yeah, and Jim, they're bottom 10 in the country in free throw rate allowed. Purdue's going to live with the line. They got 42 free throws against Texas. They're going to get 30, 40 free throws against St. Peter's. I just think they're a little bit too much. The effort there is there for St. Peter's. Fantastic coach team, at least from an effort standpoint. I mean, my gosh, they defend. But I think this is Purdue's game, even minus 12.5. I think they get it done.
Yeah, Joe, I'm just looking at the historical foul rate of Shaheen Holloway. Like Chris Beard teams always are pretty high in the foul. Like they're pack lining, but they're aggressive. St. Peter's same way. I mean, I think Purdue could easily shoot 35 free throws in this game.
Yep. One other little note that I'm sure is of historical interest for some, but might not actually be relevant betting wise. Both 15 seeds that made the Sweet 16 covered. Florida Gulf Coast covered a 14.5 point spread back in 2013. And then Oral Roberts only lost by 2 last year to Arkansas. So perhaps there is something to playing well, but we'll see.
Next game. Hey, Matt and Kai are covering the North Regional in Chicago on Friday, and on Sunday we'll be
North Regional.
I think it is the North, right?
I think it's the Midwest, right?
It says on the media credentials,
the northern
North
part
Regional.
of the Midwest.
It's I don't know why it's called that.
Well,
Chicago's up.
I take it back, Kai. If it's on the credential, I'm wrong. I apologize.
It doesn't mean it's right. We're in Chicago. We're covering the game. We're going to be there. All right. Providence, Kansas. Matt, in my opinion, the spread's too high. I love Kansas, but I'm going to happily take Providence plus 7 and up, who just lives to be in close games against better teams. You know, Nate Watson, I don't think has an edge here. Nate Watson hasn't played very well the first 2 games. But I lean towards the Friars. I'll give some more points later, but I want to get you a crack at it first.
Yeah, you know who hasn't played well is teams that play against Providence. And while Providence deserves some credit for that, my goodness, like the Richmond thing. Like look at I know the shot quality score basically had what Richmond is losing by 3 or 4. I don't believe it was that close at all. They won by 28 points, but Richmond shot 1 of 22 from 3 and 8 of 21 from the free throw line. And they scored, by the way, 20 of 31 from inside the arc. So like they were able to score inside against this Providence defense. KU will score inside against Providence as well. Question is, can Providence continue to make shots, continue to execute down the stretch late? That's what's been the undervalued part about Providence all year, is that in close games, they have multiple shot makers now, with Al Durham going to just this hero status, which I never saw in Indiana. Frustrating, IU fans know. And then Jared Bynum now healthy, doing that same kind of that Batman Robin back and forth with the Nate Watson rock inside. They know who they are in crunch time. Where Kansas, I think they're starting to kind of look like a well-oiled machine with Remy Martin. I continue to underscore how important he's been. I just don't know if I trust KU to execute as well as I do Providence if this game is tight. Kai, I'm with you. I'm leaning Providence. Some people bet this down. It's down to 7.5 right now.
Providence plus 7.5, best bet.
Love it.
KU just gave up over
Love
1
that.
point per possession to a team with 4 players. Like Creighton played 4 guys basically the entire game. They had 4 guys score all but 4 of their points, and they scored over a point per possession. I was not impressed with Kansas defense against Creighton. No Nemhard, no Kalkbrenner, no problem for the Blue Jays, at least in terms of covering. And yeah, I just buy this Providence team's the narrative and even the way they're playing. Like this is 23 and 24-year-olds that have clearly figured something out heading into the postseason here. I think they're going to hang around. They're going to be pesky. I don't know if they'll win, but 7.5 is far too many points for me. I think they have been a little undervalued by analytics, Kai. I'm seeing it. I think they've broken shot quality, Matt. I can't look at Providence shot quality scores anymore because Providence has solved that somehow. They just win games no matter what those numbers say.
They're the outlier among outliers.
I think Kansas wins, but I just think there's value on the spread here. So the thing about Providence, which is annoying if you're going against Providence, you don't know who's going to be the star. Like Noah Horschler was a star against Richmond. Al Durham, Matt mentioned, was a star against South Dakota State. I don't know if those happen again, but the fact that both those guys can step up and give you such a boost is dangerous. Now, Providence's defense is not elite. Neither is its offense. Kansas's offense is elite and is getting quite better on defense. They clearly are the better team here, but it is too many points. Jim's point about Creighton is very apt here. Hey, they're in the same conference. So I lean towards Providence on the number.
Hey,
Next
two of
game.
the last 2 of the last 3 KU games have gone over. I think Remy Martin has a big part to do with that. So I think I would be looking at an over play here.
Good stat. UNC, UCLA. UNC, Jim, has strung together 2 mega impressive efforts. I mean, if Manic played that whole game against Baylor, it's likely it could have been a blowout. UCLA was not fazed by St. Mary's. The Gales could just not stop them. What do you think about this matchup? Blue Blood City here. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, this is usually a CBS Sports Classic game in December. Big plug for them. I've just been mega impressed by UNC. I know they melted down a 38-13 run for Baylor after Manic got booted. I just think they ran out of players. This has basically become a 5-man team, Matt. They don't have depth. Caleb Love fouled out of that game. So without Manic, without Love, they were playing 2 like non-scorers. They already have Leaky Black out there who can't play on offense. I think they just ran out of guys, and getting them back on the floor. I believe in the arc that this team is on. They had every right to be this good considering the talent on the roster. I doubted UCLA last round, so perhaps I should be eating some words there. They manhandled the Gales. Really, really impressive effort from the Bruins. But I'm leaning towards UNC, Matthias. Maybe I'm crazy, but they're playing a little more defense. And when they get all 5 of those guys back on the floor, as they will for this game, the offense is truly deadly. So it's UNC for me here.
Yeah, I like Ron Lowney's take in the chat. UCLA needs to press UNC. Baylor found their biggest weakness. Interesting point. I'm not sure if that will come to fruition.
Love's off the floor. Yes.
And Caleb's off the floor. Yeah, RJ Davis is the only other viable ball handler. Even he's not super secure with it. This is the biggest toss-up coin flip. Who the heck knows matchup of this entire set of Sweet 16 games. Given what we just saw the last game, especially with UNC, this is live bet central for me. So I'm not sure if I'm looking for any specific inflection points, but I mean, the obvious ones are big deficits. I just think there's going to be huge spurts in this game, back and forth. So that's my angle, Kai. Blame, but there it is.
Yeah. So I think UCLA had a favorable route. Akron gave them a scare, but Akron's not very big. St. Mary's not athletic. They struggle against athletic teams. UNC is way bigger, way more athletic than both those teams. A true power team in every sense of the word. I think it's a really tough challenge for UCLA here. I do lean towards them. Now, the Bruins defense has been a lot more impressive than I realized this season. They don't do anything super well, but they don't have many weaknesses on that end. And that's been their key to playing, again, like a top 10 team. Preseason, Jim kind of mentioned it. Or maybe it was Matt, we all had UNC in the top 15-ish in our rankings. So we did think this team would be elite, not a 9 seed. Maybe they're starting playing to that potential. Excuse me. I do like UNC here +2. Last game on the rundown. This is the second game of the Chicago Regional. Iowa State, Miami, Florida. It's not what I wanted, Jim. I wanted Auburn. I didn't care, I guess, about Iowa State, Wisconsin, but I wanted Auburn. Gosh dang it. Miami is the best offense by far Iowa State has faced in this tournament. I think it's a bad matchup for them. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a terrible matchup for them. We talked about Wisconsin not turning the ball over and how that would give them an edge against a team that really wants to get steals and get out and run in transition. That's Iowa State's best route to offense. But so Wisconsin's form of not turning the ball over is different. It's just playing slowly, patient in the half court. They don't really punish you for gambling. They just take care of it. They take good shots. Miami, meanwhile, Matthew, I think they're more built to take advantage of the gambling that Iowa State will do. If you give them driving lanes, these guards are dynamic. Wong, Moore, McGusty, they're going to get into gaps and score. And I think that's where they take advantage of Iowa State's defense here. I think it's a really brutal matchup for the thing that Iowa State does best, and that is get steals and go the other way. And I think Miami's defense, while not their best aspect, I think they'll force Iowa State into tougher jump shots. I think Larry Nagel will have a pretty solid plan here. I like Miami. The line has flipped over to Miami's a favorite team. Yeah. Pretty heavy money early, but I agree with it. And I also have a best bet on the under.
Undertaker's back.
Iowa State unders, man. They've both been bet up so far in this tournament. They've both gone under by like 15 and 25 points. They're a bad offensive team. They're a good defensive team. I think they're an under squad for sure. So under 133.5, a best bet for me there, Matthew.
Yeah, even when Gabe Kalsher is doing Michael Jordan impression, the under still was flew under with flying colors. Yeah, Jim, I'm with the early money. I'm with you on the under. I like the Canes, and I like the under. Iowa State's good. They've defended. They've won with smoke and mirrors a lot. It's just the shot making. I don't find it to be sustainable. Miami, look at their 2 wins, guy. They haven't shot the ball particularly well. They were horrific against USC, but they found other ways to win. And I think that's it's emblematic of a well-coached team and a relatively versatile roster where like if they can force like USC, they found a weakness and like they can't really handle the ball. They're not the smartest decision makers. They pressured, they got turnovers, they turned those into points. Auburn, I thought they just played smarter. They just took better shots. And for an Auburn team with a huge size advantage to shoot under 40% from inside the arc, I think goes to show how good Larinaga has been this season, despite having effectively a 5-guard roster. I just love this Miami thing. I think they're on a roll. It's a team you don't want to get in the way of. Take the Canes. I'd even take it at the current 2.5. Even with the hook, Kai. Even with the hook. Don't even buy the half. Take the hook. Drink it. 2.5 Canes.
It's my best bet. I didn't realize it was up to 2.5 now, but it is at BetRivers. Yeah, minus 2.5 for Miami. Jim kind of mentioned it.
It's all about the U.
Miami gets
it's all about the U.
Miami gets in the lane so easily. And Iowa State's biggest weakness is 2-point field goal percentage defense. 218th in the country. It's a good defensive team. That's their bugaboo. That's what hurts them. And offense, Miami's 6th in the country. Excuse me. Miami does not turn the ball over, as Jim said. 6th in the country in turnover rate. Those guards are secure with the ball. Matt mentioned they play 4-guard lineups all the time. It's a very tough matchup for Iowa State, who cannot punish Miami for playing those all-guard lineups. The effort level, we talked about St. Peter's. Iowa State, right there with TCU, right there with St. Peter's in terms of effort. Certainly that is a factor here, but Miami's no slouch either. That Auburn game was very impressive. I think this game could end up being a double-digit win for the Canes. That's how much I think, Jim, they can handle business here against Iowa State.
Love that.
I don't think we have any chat mob questions, Mr. Matthew, but let me know if I miss anything.
No, just good quality banter, Kai. Informative intelligence, but no specific questions. If there's any right now,
is
at the last second,
by you not buying a hook. This is like you're always hitting on 16.
I changed
playing blackjack.
I changed.
And you're suddenly switching your style. Everyone else at the table is upset that you're changing strategies here.
I know.
How dare you?
I'm ruining their odds as I ruin my own too. I don't know. I just think Miami's a great bet here. That's all I have to say. No, you should still always buy the hook to 2, 3, and 5, and I'll continue to die on that hill as much as my colleagues disagree with it.
Well, that does it then, Matthew. If you have nothing else,
I'm sorry, gang. Any last second at the horn questions? I think that's it though. Quiet chat today.
Quiet chat indeed.
Best Vegas eats. We've had a lot of good food here. I did not partake in the 5-course dining experience of my fellow friends on this show, but I was at In-N-Out with the, I don't know, probably 1,000 people in that establishment on Saturday evening. So
I think Kai and I both had mussels for the first time, and they were delicious.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that, Jim. I did indeed. All right, that does it for us. Thanks to BetRivers. Thanks to Field of 68. This show will replay on Thursday and Friday. And then presumably we will have a show on Saturday covering the Elite 8 games. Till then, good luck on your bets. Have a great rest of your week. Enjoy some high-level college basketball.